Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. This morning in our series Materia Medica, we're going to discuss sweet Joepye weed, also called gravel root or queen of the meadow. And it's this large plant behind me with a spiral of leaves around the stem, a single lance-shaped toothed leaf that goes around the stem, 3 or 4 leaves around the stem. And they're stacked up in those spirals. You have a large pinkish purple flower at the top, and it grows in clusters like the one behind me on edges of meadows and clearings in open field areas where it can get plenty of sun. Now, this plant is similar to boneset in that it is a plant that will raise your body's core temperature a little bit. It is diuretic, and it also works on the urinary tract as well as the mucous membranes. The difference between this plant and the boneset is the level at which they operate within your body. And we talked about those degrees, and we talked about boneset being like a 3rd degree cooling plant because it raises your body's core temperature, induces sweating. This plant is probably a 2nd degree cooling plant for that same reason. It will raise your body's core temperature. But at the same time, this plant actually directly affects or has affinity to the mucous membrane system, so it kind of soothes those mucous membranes. It's astringent, so it's going to kind of squeeze them, but that expels mucus from your system. So if you've got one of those colds that's just trying to hang on, or you just don't feel good, your throat's a little bit sore, you've got stuffed up nasal congestion and things like that, this plant, drinking this plant will warm you up. It'll force that stuff out, and it's also a diuretic, so it's going to make you urinate, and it helps to expel those toxins from your body. Now, to use this plant, we can use any portion of this plant for medicine. The strongest part of this plant is going to be the root, but the flower tops as well as the leaves will work. And we're going to make an infusion today with this plant because we haven't really talked about how to prepare some of these things within these videos. So today I thought I would make an infusion with the gravel root, or the queen of the meadow, or the sweet Joepye weed, and show you how I prepare an infusion that we can use to drink to affect those type ailments. Stay with me. Alright, so this should give you a pretty good look at the plant itself. It's got a large purplish pink flower top. They grow 8 to 10 feet tall as an adult plant, and you can see those basic whorls of leaves that are up the stem. Climbing up the stem, you have about 4 leaves in a circle, then up the stem a little further you have 4 leaves in a circle, all lance-shaped and toothed on the edges. Alright? That's a good way to identify this plant before it flowers, and it's one of the taller plants. So if you find something that's growing up above everything else on the edge of the meadow, there's probably a good chance that it is Joepye weed or some type of gravel root. There's a couple species of Joepye weed. There's sweet Joepye weed, but they're all known also as gravel root. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to get some water on the boil here. So we'll go ahead and get our tinder bundle on here, and we'll get ourselves a nice pile of sticks, smalls in here around it. Okay, while our water's boiling, we're going to take our canteen cup and our lid, and we're going to start processing this down. And I don't care if the stem's in there, but the stem's pretty woody. So for ease of processing, we're just going to use the leaves and the flower top. And then we're just going to slice this up really good with our knife. Then we're going to put it all in this cup. So I've got about a half a canteen cup of cut up material in here now. I'm just going to pour enough water in there to cover that herb, put a lid on it, and let it sit about 15 minutes. Now you see what I did here was I've got a little apparatus here that allows me to pour this hot liquid. And what I've done here is I've got a stick toggled to the end with a loop and a stop knot right there so it can't come out. It's just a slip loop with a stop knot. You drop this stick down in there and it wedges itself in the throat. I've showed this on videos before. And if you take this loop and spread it out below and spread it over your canteen like this, you now have a handle that you can use to pour your liquid. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and empty this canteen out because I'm going to pour liquid back into it in just a minute here with this tea. So this is going to be what I'm going to drink it out of when I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and take this apparatus off of it and let the container cool down here for a minute. Okay, so once we've got our infusion steeped, and that's basically all we're doing is we are putting a masticated plant material into this cup. We poured hot water or boiling water over the top of it, boiling would be preferred, and then let it steep or let it sit with a lid on it to keep the steam from escaping, which will trap all of those properties into the water. Now we're going to strain it off into a vessel that we can drink it out of. That's why I poured the rest of my canteen out, because what I'm going to drink the rest of the day if I'm sick is going to be this infusion. I may add some liquid to it as I go, but I'm not going to water it down too much, and I'm going to make more as needed. Now the thing that you need to understand about some of these plants is how they act on your body and what the interactions with different parts of your body are. We talked about the gravel root being a little bit similar to the bone set, but they're not the same. And you want to use them for two different things. What's going to happen with this liquid that we've made here, what's going to happen with this infusion is it's going to raise your body's core temperature up a little bit for sure. But because it has a direct affinity to the mucous membranes, while it's an astringent, it's going to tighten things up. It's also going to help, you know, for lack of a better term and to keep things calm in man, it's going to make your nose run. It's going to make you cough up phlegm and expel that stuff from your body, which is what you want if you're trying to get rid of an infection that you've got. You want to get rid of that. And you're not going to worry too much about raising your body core temperature up too much unless you're running a heavy fever. And then you're going to want, obviously, to maybe add some bone set to this if you're really trying to pump that core temperature up. But this will be enough right here to raise your core temperature up to break a slight fever if you've got one. But there are lots of other medicinal benefits to this plant that you don't have with the bone set, and vice versa. But again, remember those degrees that we talked about, because this plant is not going to do things to your body to the degree level or the severity level, if that's the way you want to look at it, of bone set. But it also has other constituents and properties that bone set doesn't necessarily have. So we need to understand those things when we're making medicines out of wild plants as well, whether it's every day or whether it's an emergency. Well folks, I appreciate you joining me today for this quick video on the Joepye weed, queen of the meadow, or gravel root, depending on what region you live in and what it's called in your area. The thing to remember about this plant is it is an acrid plant. It has a very pungent and astringent flavor. When you put it in your mouth and you drink it, it's going to be nasty. You can add sugar to it, you can add honey to it if you'd like. Honey would be a very good add to a plant you're trying to expel mucus and get rid of cold symptoms and flu symptoms. Honey's going to be great for that. But no matter how much of that stuff you put in there, if you happen to have it with you, it's not going to make a difference. It's still going to taste nasty. I'm giving you a fair warning on that now. Drink it up. It'll make you feel better if you have those symptoms. Remember, plants act differently with different people. Just like any other medication or chemical compound, everyone's body and metabolism reacts to things differently. And you need to get out and practice with these herbs to understand what they're going to do to your body. They're not going to hurt you. If I don't even have a cold, it's not going to hurt me. If I don't have a urinary tract infection, it's not going to hurt me to drink this liquid. It's going to be nasty. I'm going to have to choke it down probably, but it's not going to hurt me. So then I can realize what it's going to do to me so that when I need it in an emergency, I have it. How much does it raise my core temperature? How much does it make me sweat? Well, on a 95-degree day, that might be hard to determine unless I just sit in the shade for an hour and drink the liquid for a while and see what happens. Does it make me urinate? Well, the more I drink, the more I'm going to urinate, obviously. So you have to think about all of those things as well, because while things are considered diuretics and they make you urinate more frequently, the more liquid you drink, the more frequently you're going to urinate. So remember to have common sense when you're looking at what these herbs do for your body as well. Do your research. Do research on multiple sites. Look at multiple photographs and multiple references to what that plant was used for historically and traditionally. I'm Dave Canterbury. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.